Maddy Westbeld is here from Notre Dame. She's back. And ACC, if you thought you were having trouble with Notre Dame before, just wait. Locked on Women's Basketball, we're going to get into all of why she's such a challenge, starting now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. Over 300,000 of you showing up in December 2024 alone, the way we show up for you 6 days a week. And of course, it is not just me, it is the entire team across the board over at The Next, at thenexthoops.com, where we cover the past, present, and future of women's basketball. $9 a month, $72 a year. You get it all delivered right to your inbox. Over 100 stories a month. Thenexthoops.com, where we cover this game that we all care about so much. And when I talk about the past, present, and future of women's basketball, it's hard to argue that Maddy Westbeld isn't a little bit of all three. So she is in this is your fifth year officially, right?
Yeah.
At Notre Dame?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've been covering, because I've covered you, I've covered your sister at Notre Dame for a very long time, a legacy there.
Absolutely.
And the place I need to start before we get into some of the details about just what makes your game so distinctive, which it does, and why it's such a big deal that you are back and playing, is in a battle of sisters between you guys and the Mabrys. Who wins? Who wins that pickup game?
I mean, for them to have another sister on us, that's kind of tough. But I mean, I don't know. I would never not count on me and my sister to pull through. So
I really, it's a game I'd love to see. So hopefully we will at some point. But I want to talk about what it is that you bring to the table. And again, you are back on the court. For those who don't know, injuries led to a late start to your season. Your team has not, let's say, struggled beneath 500 in the meantime. You guys are already doing special things, coming up with big wins, huge win over UConn. A number of different signature wins that come tournament time are going to have direct effect on your overall seed. For you, during this period of time, what has the work been like? I know you've been able to work with Carlos Knox, who has wNBA background. What has this day-to-day grind been like to get back out on the court?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's many, many physical things that I got to do every day to just stay ready, get ready, and get prepared for being back on the court, which I am now, thankfully. And then also just preparing for what's next in my career. But honestly, the main challenge that I encounter every day, and what I'm really trying to overcome, is that mental side of it. And I think that a lot of people will kind of agree with me when I say that the mental part of any injury, of any coming back process, is always the most prevalent. And so, obviously I do my work every day, and I get in the gym, I do my, lifts and rehab and recovery and you name it. But the discipline in my mind is really something that I take pride in. And so just getting up, doing my meditation, doing things where, you can pick a side, whether you can choose to be a victim, in a situation like this. There's a lot of things like, why is this happening to me? Or how is this happening for me? And so just trying to intentionally choose that every day.
I love that.
Yeah. So for me, that's really important to me. And that's the biggest part of the work in this process.
You talk about the confidence with a left foot injury in particular. I mean, so much of basketball, I know this may seem obvious, but I think to the listeners, worth keeping in mind is landing, is taking off. So when and how do you go about having that confidence? Because that is such a critical part of so much of what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a surgery. So
Yeah.
to be honest, I've played injured on my foot for a long time. I've played, in pain for years, for 2, 3 years. And so I just had surgery. And to be honest, the entire process was this is a healing from
Mhm.
what I had been injured for a while now. And so not looking at it as an injury, but looking at it as I'm finally healed now. And, just having that confidence that I had in, the doctor who performed it, having confidence in the staff who was helping me along the way with my rehab. And then also just having confidence in myself and knowing my body, knowing, my mind, what it can handle, understanding that if the physical part is healed, then the only thing that's stopping me is my mental. And so getting back on the court, it's just learning that confidence and also just gaining reps. Obviously, literally every day, I feel like I'm getting better. I'm getting stronger. There's something today that I won't be able to do, or that I wasn't able to do yesterday. So it's really exciting every day, getting to go to practice and seeing what new things that I can accomplish.
It's a big deal for your team, and I got into this a little up top, but people need to understand, and feel forgive a brief digression into nerdiness. I need to talk about the things that you do exceptionally well. The fact that you are 6'3", simultaneously an elite defensive rebounder from the beginning of your college career, but always both a confident and a willing three-point shooter, being able to simultaneously stretch the floor and be available to your team inside is something that you have always brought to the table. When you look at your fit on this particular Notre Dame team, when you talk to Coach Ivy, what is she looking for from you? And is it dramatically different as you ramp up from where you've been, able to fit in on these teams over the first 4 seasons that you played at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, every year has looked different. All of our teams have looked different. So obviously, what I need to do on the court for my team to be successful kind of shifts with every kind of personnel that we're playing with. But I think ultimately my versatility is what makes my game special. And so not limiting myself. I think when I start to think about that, or start to think about decision making, anything like that, I think that's when you're not maximizing your potential and not being great at your role. And so my role has always just been to be aggressive and, not limit yourself. And so with this team in particular, obviously we have threats in every facet, 1 through 5, every rotation, everything. Somebody brings something to the table, and you know whoever we're playing, opponents can't really sag off. Um,
Mhm.
and that's really unique to teams that I've played with in the past, and then also teams that we play. Obviously, in the ACC, everything is incredibly scout driven, and everybody, it's a chess game. So, um, yeah, I think just allowing myself to play free, not limiting myself to anything, and pushing myself for my teammates, and um, keeping my activity level as high as it can be.
And it's interesting, you talked about the ACC. You're missing the brand new Stanford Cal road trip that is
Yeah,
part of the
I
ACC.
know, right?
They
Yeah,
come to you guys, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I would think this year
yeah.
around. But to your point, and when you get more into this in segment two, but doing that at the offensive end is a given. Doing it at a defensive end has also always been a given. The fact that you've been north of 2% on your steal percentage and your block percentage every year you've been at Notre Dame so far this year. And I know the minutes have been limited, which I'm sure is its own degree of frustration and challenge for you as somebody who is out there all the time and loves to be out there. But again, those percentages are right where they used to be. Do you feel like you're able to have the same impact defensively already that you did prior to missing time?
I mean, obviously not necessarily, like you said. There's a lot of limitations to like playing time and all that, and I think even right now, our practices aren't as intense as they would be in the off season, where everybody's trying to get acclimated to being on the court. So for me right now, I'm really getting better in the game. And I'm really trying to push myself and do new things in the game. And so even our last game against Clemson, I started to feel a little bit again, that activity level on defense, just getting my hands to where they need to be, and just like basketball instinctive moves again. So it's really exciting for me. I mean, after every game, I'm like, okay, let me really lock into the scout for the next game. I was just talking to Devereaux Peters, and she gave me some excellent advice on coming back from injury. And she said, the scout is your best friend. Right now, when you can't completely rely on just your natural God-given athletic ability, to rely on those instincts, you can rely on tendencies. Tendencies don't lie, and they're true. So that has been great advice for me. And so that's just something I'm trying to stick to right now, at least while trying to get those natural instincts back.
Well, it's awesome, and again, I love the way in which the Notre Dame legacy, past into present,
Yeah.
is such a significant part of the day-to-day. So we're going to talk more about that in segment 2, about what you learned about your time away as well. Much more with Maddy Westbeld to come. Howard Megdal here, Locked On Women's Basketball. But first, Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Hungry Root. And Hungry Root gives me the opportunity to grocery shop, meal plan, all the things that are a struggle to do between work and family, and everything that we're trying to do day to day, while also trying to eat healthier. I was constantly feeling stressed out about it. I would go to the grocery store, buy things I didn't need, and sometimes I would end up with no time to actually cook them, which is the worst feeling of all when something is a waste. Hungry Root allows everything to happen all in one spot. Every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. They are quick, they're healthy, and they actually taste great. So for a limited time, get 40% off your first box and free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockedonnba and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/lockedonnba, code LockedOnNBA for 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/lockedonnba, code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. Back here in segment 2 with Maddy Westbeld, and I do want to talk, Maddy, before we get into some of your process of coming back and the way in which you worked on it, the way in which you feel like it's going to inform your game in the months and years ahead. A really cool thing that I understand you're doing in concert with a coffee place right in South Bend, Indiana. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I partnered with them a few months ago, and me and the owner have just hit it off from the very beginning. And he actually is a professor at Notre Dame, in the law department, and he's an incredible human. And we wanted to kind of combine our likes a little bit and release a coffee line. And so I have been able to be a part in every process of it. We ordered 2 different batches of beans from single origin farms in Brazil and Costa Rica. And, doing all the research that is backed with that, figuring out my different taste notes, what I like, and then also what average consumers like. And so it's a really cool process. It's really detailed. I've been going every couple of days for every couple hours to roast the beans at Quad Coffee Lab here in South Bend, and just being able to be a part of like really putting your hands into a process like that. It's really fun. And so we'll be able to sell it here in a couple weeks, hopefully in the next month or 2. So I'm really excited, and definitely stay tuned for it.
Is it going to be named after you? Will people be able to order the Maddy Westbeld?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll have my logo on it. My sister Catherine helped me to create the logo, create kind of my design on the front of it, and then obviously Quad Coffee Lab will be on the back. So yeah, it'll be the Maddy Westbeld coffee bean.
And there'll be mail order too for your fans all over the country?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love it. Oh, that's such a cool thing. So coffee is what I need to live, to survive. I would not be able to function otherwise with it. So, like, what are the taste notes? I'm a coffee nerd too. Tell me, like, what stood out for you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, so different coffee notes come out with different level of roast.
Hmm.
And I'm actually coming out with a ratio that I like between the Brazilian, which is a little bit darker, a little more robust,
Hmm.
and then the Costa Rican, which is it's actually honey processed, so it's pretty sweet by itself, and it's a little lighter, definitely taste to it. And combined, it's amazing. I've seen notes of like dark chocolate covered cherry, things like that. So I'm really excited. It's delicious, by the way, but I'm excited for it.
That sounds amazing, and I love the idea
Yeah.
that I'm gonna be able to use your coffee to help power my ability to cover your team in March. That'll be a very
That's awesome.
enjoyable thing, so I look forward to that. But, obviously, time away has allowed you, I think, to process things differently. I mean, just the fact that
Yeah.
you have these sort of NIL opportunities is something that, when you were recruited by Muffet McGraw, it was a different time in women's basketball than where we are now. And I wonder, if you've had this chance to reflect on your journey, what's sort of the most surprising thing, the biggest thing that feels like the biggest change for you out of women's basketball that you've seen undergo dramatic shifts over your time at Notre Dame?
Yeah, well, I watched my sister go through, an entire career where she wasn't paid.
Right.
And there were a lot of things where, it was a struggle. And especially as a regular college student, Notre Dame does things differently than any other college around the world in terms of athletics, and which, every athlete is treated just like a student. And that's a beautiful thing about Notre Dame. And, especially without the things that I've been able to receive through NIL. I think it provides me with a better perspective of, seeing both sides of it and
Mhm.
understanding the privilege and the blessing that it is that I have to take advantage of this opportunity. So for me, having that recognition of what it could have been like. And then also completely taking advantage of the fact that, I'm in it right now. So let me do everything that I can to, um, just take full advantage.
You've had the opportunity to graduate as well, degree in finance. I would have to imagine that alone gives you the perspective that allows you to sort of plan the next phase of your career, your life, your brand, all of those things. How do you think about that, and how do you define it at this point as you sort of conceive of the next chapter of the Maddy Westbeld story?
Yeah, I think even with a finance degree from the University of Notre Dame, I think that's an incredible privilege to have
Yeah.
as just a regular person, let alone someone who's been able to compensate off of NIL, even in my early 20s, and then also going on to play professionally. And even I'm struggling on figuring out, what's the best plan, what's the best options for me from a financial aspect. And so that's something that I'm really trying to tap into and really trying to educate myself, and then hopefully try to educate others, start some sort of advocacy, something, because it's real. Like that's a real issue that we can deal with, especially, kids. You have minors coming to college and they're dealing with thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, if I don't know what I'm going to do with it, and I have all of these privileges around, financial literacy, then of course my story is not unique. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited for that realm. And then also just to keep getting better at it as I go professional.
It's fascinating to see. And again, the biggest thing for me is that there are choices. That is the
Absolutely.
biggest thing. There isn't a right path. There isn't a single path. We've had folks on the program the last couple of weeks who are playing in AU, who are playing in Unrivaled, who are playing overseas, who are taking off. There's all these different ways of going about doing it. So I'm
Yes,
fascinated.
absolutely.
And so segment 3, we're going to talk about sort of what that looks like in the next few months, about what leadership is for you. And, again, the way your teammates talk about you is something that says it all when it comes to figuring out what's ahead. So final segment coming with Maddy Westbeld in just a second. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. But first, Locked On Women's Basketball brought to you by Wayfair. And so after the holiday hustle, you come back and suddenly there's those conversations. I know they are for us at home. What do we do to make the home look a little less January barren after we take down those holiday cards and we declutter, refresh the space? Wayfair is always here to help, and always here to help within your budget. They have free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. Wayfair has a site that's easy to navigate, and I found everything I needed without any trouble. Same will be for you for every style and every home. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Back here, segment 3 with Maddy Westbeld of Notre Dame. And I want to read a quote, if you don't mind, that really stuck out to me. And it was from a teammate of yours talking about your leadership, right? And this is Olivia Miles. Maddy brings a leadership that is unexplainable. Just her presence on the floor really calmed her down, knowing I could go to her, rely on her, even though she's working to get back into form. And 2 parts to that, right? One, what does it mean to you to hear a teammate talk about you that way? And number 2, what is your approach to leadership? How do you kind of think it through? It's obviously such a critical part of what you bring to this team.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. I appreciate it a lot. I think, it just kind of, I don't know, it gives me a little bit of confidence, even in this time of, you feel pretty self-absorbed, trying to get back on the court. And, I'm in a very vulnerable position. And to hear that even in this situation right now, I feel like I don't offer as much physically as, I normally do. And I'm just getting back to that. I really appreciate the fact that my presence is still felt. And so that means a lot to me. I think for me, leadership is more so having the courage to listen to your heart. I think on a team like this, anything, authenticity is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And especially just on a team that's as great as this, really being able to step outside of your comfort zone and call something out when you see it. And especially in a place like this, you set a standard for yourself first and foremost. You set a standard for yourself. You put your own oxygen mask on first, and then when you're able to do that, then you can take care of everyone else. So I think that's the approach that I best put it, and then obviously try to be as vocal as I can.
The other part of that, of course, and to what we were discussing earlier, is your game feels like it's made for the next level, in ways that we have seen the league develop over the past half decade, schemes that emphasize bigs who can stretch the floor. They're
Absolutely.
a 6'3" player who can't shoot the 3 now is harder and harder to find in starting lineups, whereas it was more of a rarity even a few years ago. And I say that, I frame it that way to say, I'm curious on 2 fronts, right? Number 1, how much you have consciously molded your game, because again, like we said, you came in able to do so much of this. You're just like this unicorn in that way. And then the other side of that is, how much do you feel as if the league understands what you're capable of doing, whether that's conversations that wNBA front offices are having with Coach Ivey, or just, what you're hearing and seeing?
Yeah, I think the biggest part of that is Coach Knox. He, even from last year, like you said, I came in with all of these skills. I have a toolbox of skills, but it's how you intentionally use them and apply them from, you can practice them every day and you can train and shoot as many shots as you want. But if you're not, Kobe said this, if you're not aware and conscious while you're doing it, then you might as well not do it. And so with Los, it was like, change your intention about everything. Focus your attention on, how do you look? How do you feel when you walk in the gym? We have great players coming back. We have Skylar. We have so many players who come back and play, and they're veterans on WNBA teams. And you can just see, you can feel their presence when they walk on the court. The way that they warm up, the way that they stretch, the way that they just approach the game, it's with such respect. It's such a high respect level that you kind of just, you sit up straight when you see how they act. So for me, it was just changing my attention about everything about the game, and really tightening up skills off the court, being consistent with all of my habits. And then obviously that leads to, or can only lead to, better consistency on the court.
Before you go, just what will success feel like for your final go round at Notre Dame, as you sort of think through what you want to accomplish here in a career that you have accomplished so much? I mean, my favorite stat, I think, is that you and your sister both scoring north of 1,000 points per game in high school. You come and you do great things together at Notre Dame, separately, but together, and the legacy you built. How are you defining it, though? That's what really matters.
Yeah, I really think I'm already successful. I think if I walked away right now, I would be happy in, everything that I've done and everything that I've been a part of, and the blessings that I've been able to be a part of. I think in this particular situation that I'm in, taking every day as an opportunity to get better, and keeping an open mind about that is something that I'm really trying to focus on right now. And just looking at everything as an opportunity, and everything as, a step leading toward possibility. And yeah, just progressing every day.
Well, Maddy, we are delighted you are not walking away now. The ACC is not going to be too happy about it, but we look forward to seeing all that you're doing into March. And then I look forward to speaking with you in April on the night of the WNBA draft and covering you at the next level too. So Maddy Westbeld, thank you for your time. To our listeners, thank you so much for making us your first listen every day. Tomorrow we'll be back with you. There's an upgrade in the host chair. Gigi Spear will be taking you through Thursday, talking to Gabby Appleby, who's going to be on the scene down in Miami, getting you ready for Unrivaled. And we will continue to be with you 6 days a week. So until then, I'm Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Wednesday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.